Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to talk about why some of you guys, a lot of you guys, lose momentum with avoidance. This can happen with any relationship, but a lot of you guys specifically are looking for avoidant partners. And what we have discussed previously, a couple days ago to a week ago when recording this video, was the 3 stages of how avoidance open up to love. I've mentioned that before. And I mentioned the second stage is where often people get stuck and they're not able to move into that third stage because they often have a lot of these behaviors that kind of combat the way avoidance process love. But the tricky part is stage 2, and I talked about this in that video, is when avoidants typically fall in love, but they don't realize it until they get to stage 3 typically. And so that's difficult because you kind of know they're in love with you and you're in love with them. But what happens is you lose the momentum right here in this stage, and you can struggle by not getting into stage 3. And stage 3 will help both of you guys to feel more comfortable in the relationship, which is why it's important. Stage 2 is a vulnerable stage. It is when both of you are becoming vulnerable and your walls are coming down. Many folks get stuck in this stage. So first, before we even get into how to gain that momentum back, I want to talk about how to know you're in this stage. You two are vulnerable with one another, and you talk about, like, maybe it started at least from this perspective. You talk about things that are vulnerable to one another, the stressors in your life, how your mom mistreated you, how their dad was strict on them, whatever it is, okay? And you are vulnerable and you've opened up to one another. The next one is you've had a disagreement before, or you do have frequent disagreements, okay? And usually with those disagreements, you don't feel like they're resolved. You feel like you guys are just both digging your feet in and no one's getting what they want. And sometimes they're like reoccurring issues, okay? The next one is you both have revealed things about yourself to each other that maybe you don't really reveal to much people. So you've already opened up the opportunity and perspective that you two are special to one another. And the last one is that your trauma has showed up. Your attachment issues have started to show up. One person is pulling away. The other person is kind of pulling towards. And we're seeing this happen, okay? And so what are the mistakes that happen in stage 2? You start controlling the pace of the relationship more as they start to pull away. You over-initiate to fill the gap. You start quieting your voice of what you want instead of finding a middle ground together. Sometimes what you do is you might quiet your voice, but then you crash out maybe a couple months, a couple weeks later about the very thing you were quieting your voice about. And then they get so destabilized or kind of confused about why you're behaving the way that you are because they weren't aware of you quieting your voice, and they get a little confused as well. And so then you guys get into a fight and then nothing happens and you feel like they don't care about you and they feel like all you do is pick fights. And that kind of is confusing. It turns into a cycle. And then you don't call them out on things that makes you feel bad or what they need to do or anything like that. You kind of just remain quiet. And I'm going to give an example that is not really an emotional example, but it happens a lot, okay? So let's say I have a couple, I don't know, it doesn't matter which one is avoidant, but let's just say we have a male, dismissive avoidant, female, anxious, preoccupied, okay? And every time they go on vacation, let's just say, for example, they use her car because her car is smaller. And when they fill up the gas, they always use her card, her credit card. And she starts feeling a type of way because she's always like, okay, we're putting miles on my car and I'm paying for gas, even though both of us are using this gas. And so that's making her maybe feel a type of way, but maybe he has no clue because he just didn't think about it like that. And she didn't say anything. And so maybe they always have been doing that for like years. Every time they go on vacation, they do it like that because her car is smaller and it's just easier for them to go to the airport or drive to whatever because it's just easier. Maybe he has a truck and it's annoying to park that type of truck. And so that's the reason it happened. But now she's feeling that way. She's bottling it up. She's feeling more angry. And then instead of maybe in the beginning mentioning, hey, I think we should split the gas, or maybe you take gas most of the time considering we're putting miles on my car, she doesn't say that. And then she crashes out maybe months later, years later, and she says that you're selfish, you spend all my money, it makes me feel like you don't care. And he's like, wait, what happened? I didn't know that. And then he gets so defensive now, he says he doesn't want to do those things, even though originally, if you had said it in a calm way, a lot of times he might have said, yeah, that's fine. But because you're almost calling him a bad person, now he's almost trying to say, no, I'm not a bad person. And he tries to defend himself. But when in defending himself, it makes you feel like he's now a bad person, this person, right? She feels like he's a bad person. And then what ends up happening is the fighting continues because you didn't call them out on what was bothering you. And they feel like, wait, why did you bottle this up all these years? It makes me feel like you're just, you're not a good communicator. It makes me feel like you just pick on random things because they didn't know you were feeling this way for so long. And in their mind, they're like blindsided. Okay. And so what should you do so that in this stage, you don't end up cycling and cycling and cycling to where they end up getting pushed away further and further and further? Okay. The first one is you want to have clear expectations. You don't always need to have a deadline. In fact, I would say you don't need a deadline really at all because that deadline is going to be based on how they behave and how you behave. And that's the fourth point we're going to talk about. Okay. But you want to have clear expectations. So let's give that car, the gas example I just gave you guys. Okay. Because some of y'all would think that the clear expectation is you should pay. I want to start seeing you pay by next week. Otherwise, we're done. That's not what I'm saying. All that I'm saying is maybe you can say, I notice that I'm feeling a type of way. I'm feeling frustrated about the fact that every time we go on a trip, I'm paying for gas and we're also putting miles on my car. So what I'd like is because we're putting miles on my car, I would like you to be the one that pays for gas. That's my angle. What do you think? You had a clear expectation, a clear perspective. You're not putting any consequences. You're just having an expectation. This is more palatable, especially to someone you love. It's not like you're fighting with this person. Sometimes you think that it's like an enemy you're talking to. This is a person you love. You want to build a relationship with. You don't have to come in really aggressive or really trying to make your point across. It's not like that. You just want to show your expectation and you should trust that they'll meet you that way. Because if they don't, that's already a person that's abnormal. And of course, we all have some abnormalities. I shouldn't have said it like that. But you don't want to be with someone who's not able to meet you like that anyways. It helps you vet out, is this person even a good, healthy person for you? Are they willing to grow or are they just going to get angry all the time? The next one is you want to show flexibility towards compromising on your side as well. And you want to verbalize this because it will help them not only model behaviors, but it'll also teach them and yourself that compromising is normal. It's healthy and it helps you to keep your own track record of I'm doing this, not just because I'm doing it for you, but also for myself. It helps them if they ever feel like they're not getting things out of the relationship. Of course, you can still say, okay, that makes sense. I hear that. But I do want to let you know I have done A, B, and C. And sometimes I feel like you're not meeting me from that angle. It can actually help them because it's more rational. It's more tangible instead of a feeling. So if you are also doing compromising as well, it helps them to also be more held accountable from their lack of compromise, if that ever happens, and it probably will, because it's not just an emotion, it's actually tangible tasks that you recall and have done, okay? The next one is admit your mistakes and you work on them. And in turn, of course, subpoint, you will also hold them to those same standards. And the last one, this one is the one you keep to yourself, and this is the point that I mentioned about the deadlines. You want to see if there's progress from them. To be honest, you want to almost not monitor them, but you want to keep track in your mind of how they respond to your expectations and how they've changed. A lot of you guys ask me, what's the difference between how will I know if this person is taking advantage of me or if I'm just like babying them or if they're actually doing what's right for this relationship? And the main reason is progress. It's probably the best way to know. And not progress, you're not comparing them to another person's couple, you're like a relationship. Don't look at Jim and Sally's relationship or Pam and Jim, whoever your neighbors are, or whoever you're comparing it to, right? Just random names. If those are like celebrity names, I don't even know. Like I'm just picking random names, like just random. So I'm not specifically talking about a specific couple, okay? But whatever this person is, don't compare them to random people or people that you know. Compare them to how they were when you guys first started having issues or like when their trigger started showing up. So let's say you guys have been dating for 3 years. Compare them to the 6-year mark, who they were at that time versus who they are now. If there is progress, even a little bit, that means that there is progress in this relationship. It doesn't mean you have to stay, but it does mean you're not fully wasting your time. And so by doing these things, you don't lose that momentum with your partner. You start gaining more abilities for that progress, okay? So I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.